How good my review of King Kong, directed by Peter Jackson, a film that follows a film director, writer, and an actress who all venture out of 1930s New York City to shoot a movie at an uncharted island where dinosaurs, creatures, and a gigantic silverback gorilla roam. Okay, so I've never actually seen all of the original King Kong, nor have I actually sat down and watched all of Peter Jackson's King Kong. Throughout the years, I would only see bits and pieces of it on TV. And one of the reasons why I've never actually sat down and watched the film only until very recently in full is because I would always catch it pretty much right in the middle of the film. But even though I've only seen bits and pieces of this film throughout the years, I've always kind of considered this to be Peter Jackson's last great film because The Lovely Bones, at least in my opinion, wasn't all too good, and the Hobbit films are good, but nowhere near the caliber of the Lord of the Rings trilogy. Now, some of the main problems that I've had with Peter Jackson's recent films is that one, I think they lack good editing for they are redundantly long, and two, I think they're so engulfed in CGI to the point it's actually a bit distasteful because we've seen what Peter Jackson can do. We've seen him in the past how he uses practical effects and can use them very effectively. I mean, when you go from building sets in New Zealand to going straight to a green screen to shoot a scene, I think that's a bit disappointing. And although King Kong is indeed covered in CGI from top to bottom, I think it uses it tastefully, and at the same time, I think it's actually quite grounded, unlike the Hobbit films. Now, I will talk about the CGI a little later, but for now, I just want to talk about just how brilliantly this film was able to create that sense of wonderment and that sense of mystery that so many films today in the action-adventure genre completely lack. There are so many films that I watched today that make me feel like I'm observing rather than participating, and this film managed to make me feel as if I was actually on that journey with those people, experiencing the things that they're experiencing. This film managed to make me feel like a kid again, and not only that, but it reminded me of the films I used to watch as a kid, films like Harry Potter, The Lord of the Rings, and especially Jurassic Park. Films that would take me on these great, big, fun, exciting adventures, yet at the same time, though, would absolutely horrify me. More specifically, Jurassic Park. And surprisingly, this film does have some horrific imagery. There's a scene that features these giant, creepy, disgusting-looking worms, and they completely devour an entire character. I'm not going to tell you who that is, but I'm 21 years old, it takes a lot to disturb me, and that kind of creeped me out. And although I've never seen Peter Jackson's earlier work, I can totally believe that he was once a horror filmmaker. I mean, you can see little bits and pieces in the Lord of the Rings films, and you can definitely see that here as well. And moreover, what's also great about this film is its themes throughout. There's this theme regarding cinema with the Jack Black character, who instead of presenting himself as a filmmaker, presents himself as a film producer. And he's somebody who is very egotistical, doesn't really care about anybody but himself, just wants to make a very crappy picture, get rich off of it, and get famous off of it. And that's essentially it. And of course, you also have the narcissistic action actor played by Chandler, who is essentially just nothing more than a giant coward. But of course, the film also conveys themes such as the good and the bad of humanity, as well as passion and love with the Naomi Watts and the Adrien Brody characters. These are two characters who aren't all about money. These are characters who take more pride in their work rather than their paycheck or their wallets or whatever. And regarding the love aspects of things, I'm mostly talking about the relationship between Andy Serkis, King Kong, and Naomi Watts. And oddly enough, the relationship actually worked quite well because, let's be honest, the premise is a bit out there because, you know, think about it. A woman falling in love with an ape, that's kind of weird. But no, really, the relationship was very sweet, it was very sincere, and I was very much invested in their little love story. As for the performances, they're all great. Naomi Watts, Jack Black, Adrien Brody, and especially Andy Serkis, who is just fantastic. I feel like I'm preaching to the choir here, but when it comes to performance capture, Andy Serkis is the master of it all. Andy Serkis is excellent as King Kong, whether it be matching a gorilla's physicality or the nuanced facial expressions. I do find it slightly disappointing that he didn't get any sort of recognition during the 2006 award season. And the CGI for King Kong, even in today's standards, is quite spectacular. As for the other CGI, it's quite great as well. However, there were some points in the film where I could tell, okay, yes, that was filmed on a stage or whatever. The CGI still looks great and holds up quite well. However, with all the great stuff I've said about King Kong, I do have some problems, and there are only two, okay? One, the Naomi Watts character is essentially the epitome of the damsel in distress. But at the same time, this film is a remake of the 1930s film, and from what I understand, this film is a beat-by-beat remake of that film, so I can't necessarily blame this film for doing that. However, I will say that her character does kind of come into her own by the end and does show courage throughout. As for my last and final complaint, and this is indeed the biggest one, is that it kind of ends a bit awkwardly and a bit abruptly. I just kind of wish that the film had spent maybe 5 more minutes just to kind of wrap up everything. Instead, we get a character who walks on screen, delivers a bit of a cheesy line in my personal opinion, and then walks off screen. After spending 3 hours with these people and going on that vast journey, the actor might as well have just looked at the screen and said, "The movie's over, get out." Other than the problems that I've stated, King Kong is a true masterpiece of cinema, so I'm going to give it a 5 out of 5. And if you're someone like me who's getting to the party a bit late, then I'd highly recommend checking out King Kong because it is an extraordinary piece of work. As always, I'm Colin Kirkland, and thank you so much for watching.